Good morning and good early afternoon to each and every single one of you. Welcome to Real Estate America's Newsroom. I am Jake Wolf, and today is April 28th in the year of our Lord 2022. Once again, we have a jam-packed show. We've got some amazing guests and a lot of ground that we're going to go ahead and cover. So get out your coffee, get out your preferable beverage, and your pencil and paper, ladies and gentlemen. Let's roll into the opening notes. A crypto mortgage has arrived. A crypto mortgage with zero down. What is a crypto mortgage? A lot of people are not even aware that this thing is even available. It's starting to come to a market. Crypto mortgages are the latest example of the deepening role of digital coins in the U.S. real estate marketplace, with property buyers and lenders alike embracing the volatile currencies to underpin deals for hard assets. So we're going to go ahead and spin this around with Mr. Tim Parnell and Nick Sakis and kind of get you guys all in the know of what a crypto mortgage is and what we think is possibly coming as we start moving forward in this wonderful world. Did you know your home purchase in Beverly Hills, your big Beverly Hills home purchase, also comes with a sister home that you can purchase for just $100,000 more? You know, just $100,000 more. You can get yourself your digital sister home in the metaverse. Los Angeles real estate market is moving into the metaverse, where anybody who buys certain homes in Beverly Hills can also buy sister residence in that 3D world. We're going to go ahead and jump in with Mr. Tony Barbarino and find out what's going on down there in Beverly Hills and how spacious those digital homes are. We'll find out. Dallas now, ladies and gentlemen, is in the news. Dallas is considering legislation to limit investors purchasing homes in their town. It looks like they're aiming to tackle the rise of home prices across DFW. Things are starting to go wild down there, and they're starting to hit the news. We just went ahead and got released the top cities in the United States of America Spring 2022 Emerging Housing Markets Index Report. So we're going to take a look at what the Wall Street Journal and Realtor.com released regarding the number 1 to the number 10 city, right? So the index analyzes key housing market data as well as economic volatility, lifestyle metrics, surface emerging housing markets that offer high quality of living and are expected to see future home price appreciation. So we're going to go ahead and go down there. And I don't know if any of you realize this or not. While we were all sleeping during 2021, closing costs on single family homes rose on average across the United States of America 13.4%. That's a big jump. So we're going to go ahead and roundtable this with all of the team and kind of get an idea for where we think 2022 is going, right? So property taxes are up, closing costs are up. Everything seems to be up these days. So we're going to roundtable that with the team here and just jump right into it. But before I start, he loves when I say this, my illustrious co-host, Mr. Nick Sakis. How are you doing today, sir?
Mr. Wolf, you know what else is up is my Twitter following. So thank you to everybody who's listening to the show and sent me a friend request off of our suggestion to dust off your Twitter profile last episode.
Dust off your Twitter boots. Yep. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm like I said last time on the news, I'm very interested to see what's going on there, and it'll be interesting. Hey, yep. Nick, what is this cryptocurrency and a crypto mortgage? What in the world?
Man, I got to tell you, I'm excited about this one. Tim's going to come in and we're going to drop some knowledge. I think the interesting part, the way things are going so fast right now, people are just thinking about, how do I invest in Shiba Inu? Little do they know that they can actually get something like a self-repaying mortgage, borrowing against their crypto assets to get a mortgage. So there's a lot of exciting things going on in the DeFi world that I think is going to become mainstream very, very shortly.
It seems the life kind of feels fast over the last year and a half, 2 years. There's so much change that's constantly happening. How do you keep up with all of this stuff?
I think listening to programs like this, right?
Oh yeah, that's it. That's a nice inside plug. Everybody, if you like that little inside joke, that little nudge, shoot us a like and
head over to REU Nation and get the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, we always like to kick off the show. Just so you're aware, we are broadcasting on the REU Nation network. Okay, so if you go to reunation.com, head on over there, check out Real Estate America's Newsroom channel. If you enter your information, you can go ahead and get show notes from all of our shows after we get done broadcasting live, hot insider news. And also, if you guys have anything that's going on in your neck of the woods that we should be aware about or would like to be a show guest, come on over and enter your information over there, and we'll take a look at it and get you up on the air. So always nice to go and see some new faces and hear some new things. So, and also thank you to each and every single one of you that are frequent listeners of the show for sharing a lot of information and connecting with us. I've really been impressed, and good on you. So from us here at the newsroom, we appreciate you. All right, Nick, let's go ahead and roll right into it because we've got a stacked hour, and I know people are wanting to get all through this information. I'm going to bring Mr. Tim Parnell up here real quick. Hello, Mr. Tim Parnell from Patriot Wealth Nation. How are you today, sir?
Good to see you, Jake. Doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, I pulled you in on a pretty hot topic here because you're the man that knows, and we need to know about the whole crypto side of the house and what's going on with our money. But before we go ahead and jump into it and I start drilling you on questions that our whole audience has obviously for us, I've got this little news clip here from, I believe, CNBC, on Milo, who's supporting these cryptocurrency funds. So let's take a look at that, and then we're going to go ahead and roundtable it.
Milo is a barely 3-year-old mortgage lender that has worked so far mainly with international clients, closing over $100 million in loans in the last 15 months. Now it's getting into crypto loans. CEO Joseph Rupena joins us to explain. Thanks so much for being here. In the simplest terms, how exactly does a crypto mortgage work?
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here on the show this morning. So a crypto mortgage is really an opportunity for individuals that have crypto to purchase real estate. And we do that by getting comfortable with them as borrowers, as well as the fact that crypto is a fantastic long-term asset to hold.
So do you actually lend them Bitcoin and Ethereum to buy a house, or is it based on the underwriting?
Great question. So this is for individuals that already own crypto. So they own Bitcoin, Ethereum, or stablecoin. And this allows us to underwrite that as well as them as a borrower to be able to extend credit to them and be able to purchase real estate in the U.S.
But you're actually lending them dollars, not necessarily the Bitcoin and Ethereum, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. So we're providing a mortgage, so dollars. So similar to a transaction today that happens where there's a seller that would like dollars once they sell their property. We do the same thing. We facilitate that by extending dollars to the seller. And then we provide a mortgage to the borrower, in this case, the individual that has crypto.
But they could actually make their monthly payments in crypto if they want, correct?
That's correct. So they can pay in crypto, or they can actually make payments in dollars, whichever they choose.
Okay, so let's get into the underwriting of this. When you generally underwrite a borrower, you're looking at what their assets are, what their money in the bank is, basically, and that's pretty settled. I mean, when you have an amount of dollars, you have an amount of dollars. But being as volatile as crypto is, if you're underwriting a borrower based on the amount of crypto they have and considering that mostly their wealth, then isn't that volatility a huge risk to you?
I think that's one of the magics of what we're doing by combining a very stable asset like real estate along with crypto that allows us to get comfortable with the overall transaction of giving them a mortgage with the consideration that they have crypto as well, that is a liquid asset, as well as having real estate all tied up into a transaction. So that actually smooths down the volatility for us.
So why exactly do we need crypto mortgages?
So there's some really interesting information, and it's really not so much where the world has been, but where the world is actually going. If you think about this past year, about 1 out of every 8 consumers actually liquidated some crypto to go out and qualify for a mortgage. And we fundamentally believe that this asset class that right now is roughly about $2 trillion will continue to grow over time. And those individuals that want to transact and purchase real estate are going to need solutions like ours and really for us to be able to pioneer and really be the first company to go out and launch this product and have it live is a very, very big deal for lots and lots of consumers that have crypto that have been needing a solution like this for a very long time.
So 1 in 8 borrowers, he says, have liquidated some type of cryptocurrency in order to go ahead and start achieving a mortgage. Tells me a lot of people are starting to get into crypto, which now obviously is something that they're rolling into the mortgage side of the house. Tim, I'm looking at a Bloomberg report here. It says the home loans offered by Milo represent a new twist. Instead of simply paying for property with tokens, borrowers pledge their digital holdings as collateral with no down payments necessary. That enables the holders to keep their coins, avoiding taxes on capital gains, and theoretically benefiting from the rising values for both the tokens and the real estate itself. So break this down for us. Is this going to be the new wave of the future, or what's going on here?
It is I believe it is an onset. I like the term shot across the bow to the traditional way of procuring financing for a mortgage. I think there's some people out there that think this is about as catchy or has the staying power of a liger, but I assure you, this is going to stick. And not only is it going to stick, it's going to. I think that the adoption of this will go from just a single company or two or three to a banking practice, like for many banks in America or even the world, will ultimately adopt this style of lending, because when people start putting their money into these very volatile but yet high risk, high reward, especially in the long term aspect of these cryptocurrencies, their crypto investment's going to well outperform, maybe, but could well outperform the value of that property. So why would they want to cash out that crypto and put it into fiat dollars to go convert it into a property when they can just leverage it and keep it all, and then it can go up higher than the property itself? Now, there's a downside. And my bet is that on the downside, you leverage this crypto, as I've understood how staking works for cryptocurrencies. If you leverage it and all of a sudden your crypto goes down, if it goes down below a certain amount, you have to put more crypto in, of whatever type of crypto you chose, to cover that difference. And so if it continues to go down and you don't have enough to cover the depth, then you could get liquidated at that point. So there's that.
Nick, what are your take on this? I know you play around in the crypto marketplace. Are you excited about this?
I think it's great for the reason. So if we think about in terms of, most of the people are afraid of crypto because they don't know what to do with crypto once they have it, right? So at the end of the day, before the centralized exchanges came out and you had a Visa crypto card in your wallet and you can go to the grocery store and buy groceries with it, it was really trapped inside this mystery world, right? So as the past couple of years have come out, there's more people in this last bull run that have more wealth in crypto than they do in dollars, for a good reason, right? The dollar is losing its steam. So
well, what happened there? So how much has the crypto market advanced, and how much money have people made from over a 12-year period of time as this thing started to get adopted?
I mean, the last bull run made millionaires. It's going to continue. So it's just like real estate. It ebbs and flows, right? There's bear and bull markets. Right now we're in a bear market. But the cool thing that this mortgage company is doing, if you think about it in terms of like the dollar backed by gold, so now we're crypto backed by real estate, right? So you have two appreciating assets at the same time. And it makes a lot of sense from okay, if I bet on, say, whatever coin or whatever, like I sold my house, I got $100,000 in equity. I realized the dollar might be falling and I put all that money into crypto. Now I've tripled my crypto. And what am I going to do with this holding? Am I just going to continue to diversify into different things? Or now I can stake that into a mortgage. I don't have to have a taxable event. And now I can buy a property and keep all my funds in one place. It's essentially the same thing the wealthy people have been doing since the beginning of time with insurance products, like Tim talks about all the time. It's just the next wave of it, right? It's the new way of doing it with this digital dollar. And it doesn't have to be Bitcoin, Ethereum. It doesn't have to be, these huge unstable coins. There's stable coins out there that you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. So it's a really interesting time to be alive. And I think we're right in the beginning stages of this.
Tim, according to this Bloomberg report, Milo wants to make such loans a big business by pooling them and selling them to banks, asset managers, and insurance companies, and maybe even offering them as bonds and securitization, according to the founder, Joseph Rupina. So if this is a tax advantage way to go ahead and acquire and utilize some of your assets that you have, I'm feeling that it's going to be advised upon by accountants and things like that and start catching some normalization. What are your thoughts?
For it to catch normalization for accountants and other advisors, it's going to probably have to be securities regulated, right? It's got to pass the muster, securities laws, things like that, for there to be an advisory aspect. And we're just not there yet. I do believe we will get there, that there will be this established understanding foundation for how cryptos are allowed to intermingle with our current, financial investment structure. Okay. It's not there yet. Will it? I believe it will, but then you've got the learning curve of taking what people have most people are afraid or hate what they don't understand. So I just don't want to learn about it. So I believe you're probably going to have a new generation of people coming through the ranks like Milo, who are going to adapt these different means of investment strategies or reallocation of crypto funds to avoid taxation, things like that. I do believe there's going to be a new way of doing business coming.
Interesting. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to keep a close eye on it, and we will most definitely let you know. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on this segment. Did you know that if you purchase a home in Beverly Hills, you can pick up a sister house for maybe just a, chip in the bucket, a little bit extra, 100,000 extra dollars? So there's been a lot of interest in the metaverse. Actually, there's been $4 billion or so dollars that have been spent on acquisition of these real estate assets out there in this virtual digital world. If you bought this Beverly Hills home, this is the sister house. Let's go ahead and take a look at this report, and then we'll roundtable it with Mr. Tony Barbarino and Nick Sakis.
Imagine spending six figures not on a physical house, but a virtual one. LA real estate market is now moving into the metaverse.
That's right. Anyone who buys a certain Beverly Hills home can actually buy a sister residence that's been built in the virtual world. KCAL 9's Chris Holmstrom explains.
Welcome to the Beverly Hills Meta House. We went live on the market last night.
Rochelle Atlas Mays has helped hundreds of buyers and sellers in the LA area. The latest offer, this 1928 Spanish-style home. The selling price, $9.4 million.
So the person that buys this house can actually buy a house that's already built in the metaverse for $100,000.
That's right, $100,000 extra for a home in the virtual world, also known as the metaverse.
There's a lot of interest in the metaverse. Actually, there's about $4 billion that have been spent in the last year.
Yeah, so right now we're live in 607 Beverly Hills Meta House.
That's Alex Yates. He's co-founder of Letty, a metaverse developer.
Once the buyer buys the house, we'll develop the interior for them.
Still confused? His partner, Mark Mtiaz, helps break it down.
People would be able to have their friends over from all over the world for a virtual gathering. They could have their NFTs displayed in the house. They could have the furniture change.
Mtiaz compares the metaverse to the internet in 1994 and says, like the internet, it will only continue to grow.
We are looking at Gen Z, millennial basically taking over. More than 85% of Gen Z and millennial play video games. So the virtual world is very familiar space to them.
But for some, it may be too much of an outer-world experience. Rochelle says that's okay, and that this Beverly Hills home can also be purchased without the virtual one. Chris Holmstrom, KCAL 9 News.
Virtual?
Like something my son would like to play with because he likes Minecraft.
Game. Yeah, there you go.
I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around all of this stuff, right? It does look like some 1990s video game, and yeah, just an extra $100,000 chip in the bucket. I can go ahead and pick myself. How can I cook food over there in that house? I mean, what's going on here, ladies? I don't know. I'm still I guess I'm old school, ladies and gentlemen. But what's this craze? I mean, $4 billion in the metaverse on digital real estate. And Tony, what's going on in Beverly Hills? Is this just going to be an add-on to all of the homes you guys sell down there?
Here's my guess, because just about everything in real estate is a guess or an educated guess. What I'm going to predict is that people who are selling homes at 8, 9, 10, 20, 30 million dollars probably would put this as an add-on. Hey, buy my house for 30 million, which there's always going to be a big profit margin, like almost all the time. They may throw that in as a seller, and then a competing house, 12 houses over doesn't do that. Well, the younger people who over the years that grew, meaning like people today who are dropping 30 million on a house, back in the 90s, I actually saw this stuff happening, but it wasn't this cool. Now they're going to think, oh, hey, that reminds me, 25 years ago, I used to see this stuff. Now it's so much more amazing. And yeah, I'm buying a $30 million house and they're going to give me a virtual home as part of my purchase. I'm doing it. Buyers, if they have superfluous wealth, they may initiate buying it themselves, but that would be money that they have to be willing to lose, because when you drop $100,000 on a virtual house, unless you can somehow sell it through a brokerage that's qualified and capable to handle that kind of transaction, should you be able to do that, I can see that could be a bit of a gamble or fun money, as I like to call it. as a real estate agent, I do my best, and as an ex-scientist, try to think things through and look at, where can things go wrong? Are there things we don't know? So I would advise sellers, if you're at a really high price point and you want to add this in as an add-on, because over the years, as the gentleman said on the news, more and more people grew up with this, so they may find a certain novelty or coolness factor, and it might become standard a little later. Right now, I would suggest a cautionary approach and some patience, and let's see how this shakes out. But it could be a fun add-on for sellers selling their home.
So this is getting into the fun play zone money. Here's a lot of Americans across the United States of America that are hurting. Inflation's up. I mean, food prices are up everywhere. And to go ahead and see people are throwing $100,000 at a digital house, it's unsettling for the normal folk, I would say.
But let's put the asterisk here. So we look at it as right now, Jake, old school. Like, I don't really understand this. I'm paying $100,000 for a video game. You're buying an asset. It's another asset, right? It's just a virtual asset. So right now, it might be interesting to say, like, hey, I just bought this $12 million house and I get the free meta house that goes with it. I'm gonna give that to my kids and let them play in it. And they can have all their friends over and they can do stuff. And then guess what? I'm going to sell my house in 10 years for $35 million. And what if that meta house is now $1 million property that I invested $100,000 into because it's an asset that you own? Now, the caution to this is there's many, many metaverses, right? And there's going to be metaverses are going to be just like NFT projects. There's going to be peaks and valleys. Some come, some go. Some stick. Decentraland and Sandbox are probably the two primary ones right now. I don't know which one this is built on, but it is an asset that you're getting with the house. It makes a lot of sense in the time we're in right now. The funny part about this, it reminds me of in like 1995, there was a Good Morning America clip that's been famous where they're all talking about email. And it was like, what's this electronic mail thing? You mean to tell me that someone's going to write me a letter and send it to my computer? And they're all laughing on camera about how ridiculous this thing called email is. If you look back at that clip of how preposterous and absolutely insane that sounds today, that is going to be what happens in 10, 15, 20 years when people look back and everybody was making fun of the metaverse and like, I don't understand. It's just a glorified video game. Right now, you can legitimately go buy food in the metaverse and get it delivered to your house in real life. Like, you can go to a Wendy's, you can go to a Subway in the metaverse, stand in line. There's people that work there. They get paid in cryptocurrency to stand behind the counter, take your order. It gets transferred to Uber Eats and it gets delivered to your house. So that's already happening now. Transactions are already being done in the metaverse. This is like just scratching the surface.
If I can add to what Nick said, on a positive spin to what Nick said, almost all successful companies that advertise is pretty much cradle to grave advertising. So, for example, I have some clients that are 28 years old, they're data scientists, and they make in 6 digits at 28 years old. And they pretty much, grew into this. So iPads are normal. The internet is normal. I remember when the internet was literally starting as an ex-scientist back in the day, watching really dull PhDs suddenly get giddy like kids when they see the word hello typed on the screen from half a world away. So now it's normal. So to kind of reword kind of what Nick was just saying, which was really good, is that what we're going to see is, all right, in 20 or 30 years, I know that's a long time, but this might become a normal thing. It's going to have a little shakeup, a little fear, a misunderstanding. But over time, as more and more people incrementally get into this, I think it's going to get shaken out, ironed out, and become probably more normal, just like your iPad and emails. I've actually seen it, these things change. So Nick's right. Things like this may become normal and more stabilized and probably a smart move. We just can't see it right now because there's too many variables.
And Jake, $100,000 is not much for the metaverse. There's people buying plots of land for millions of dollars in these metaverses already. Like, it's not $100,000 is not what you think it is as far as a high price tag. It does seem ridiculous, but yeah, that's not a outlandish amount of money.
There once was a time that we created the wheel, and everybody said, "What was that?"
Yeah.
There once was a time that we said we're going to go to the moon.
Fly.
Yeah, and fly. So a lot of change. The acceleration that we've all seen over the last 20 years with technology and advancement from 2000 to 2010, and then the next 10 years, and now with the scale of growth in technology, we're going to see things start happening a lot faster. I
Communication is going to change everything. We talked about Twitter on our last episode, and I mentioned it's like a gigantic party where everyone's invited to this one super huge house called the world, and we can all talk. So like Nick was saying about, the normalcy of it eventually, as more people talk, let's say on Twitter, and they're going to share links and understanding and tips and suggestions and fears and problems. So it pretty much, something like Twitter could really put a lot of eyeballs on this process about buying these virtual homes. And as more consumers grow into that and understand, more of them might take action.
Yeah, understood. So a little bit of a spin-off of technology, gentlemen, right? We've seen the world kind of come closer together. We speak and communicate a lot faster. We have commerce in different ways that are happening, right? So we're just going to have to stay educated and understand what's going on and how it pertains to us personally as households. But I'm looking at this next segment that we're running into here. It looks like Dallas is starting to have some issues with investors coming in. And with this free flow of technology and this kind of a change, it's now easier for people to go ahead and put their money into REITs, real estate investment trusts, which then are going out into the marketplace and picking up homes. And a lot of this over the last 2-3 weeks, we've been covering and touching on how homeowners associations are trying to prevent investors from coming in. We got a lot of stuff going on. So I'm going to go ahead and run in real quick, and we're going to find out what's going on in Dallas and bring in Mr. Parnell. But gentlemen, thank you for teaching us all about this wonderful metaverse. I appreciate you.
Homeowners across North Texas have been getting their property tax appraisals, and they are coming back with some sticker shock. Home values across the area have gone up 20% or more. Fox 4's David Santandri live with the story. David.
Well, Heather, as you mentioned, home prices up 20% according to experts, while the inventory is down 30%. They say right now demand is at an all-time high, which is creating a whole lot of mess for plenty of people in North Texas.
This is built in 1941.
Barry Kuda Hebner purchased his Oak Cliff home in 1998. The neighborhood different back then.
A little old lady would bring tamales to my door in a red wagon, and we're going, this is awesome, this is great.
At the time, his home's appraised capped value, $77,000. Last year, valued at $295,000.
So this is what you got in the mail today.
Hebner receiving a new Dallas County appraisal notice Monday.
It's still going on.
It's rising an additional $30,000, meaning taxes will also rise.
And it's getting to be where I'm not going to be able to stay, just due to tax increases.
Well, the housing market in DFW right now is absolutely on fire.
RE/MAX Town and Country broker Michael Coburn.
We have so much demand for houses, it's causing prices to increase dramatically. There's houses that last year were $300,000 that are being appraised this year for $390,000. And so what that's doing is causing taxes to go up even if you're not planning on selling your house.
Times have changed and gentrification is taking over.
If Hebner sells, he says he can't afford something similar in this market.
Can't afford to leave, can't afford to stay.
Hebner's wife lived here with him until she died from cancer in 2019. The 69-year-old, who spent years working in the music industry before retiring,
Eddie Vedder
hopes to live his remaining years here. He just hopes he can afford it.
And every month I tap into that a little more and a little more so that I can pay the shortfalls.
Most counties in North Texas have already sent out their appraisals, and if you've been on social media today, you can see that they're coming in for a lot of people, many sounding off on their opinions as the increased rates roll in.
So it looks like the median home prices in Texas in that territory jumped roughly 22%, according to this Fox 4 report, year over year, and as of the end of March. Also looks like Texas voters are trying to decide on two propositions that can impact property taxes, but the city of Dallas understands that a lot of these investors are starting to mess around with their marketplace, and they're considering limiting the number of homes real estate investors can buy. In this move would aim to tackle the rising home prices across the DFW area. Tim, we've talked about this scenario happening in Orlando and Tampa here last week with Mr. Chris Manka and Nick. Sounds to me like it's happening in Dallas as well.
It is. Yep. And what is the real solution for what the heck's going on? I mean, do we Do we take on the investors? Is it really limiting the amount of property they can do? Because investors traditionally have had a unique role in the real estate market, and that is that they have the finances, the money, the know-how to improve a home. Okay. And you can't ask that of a regular home buyer because that's just not how they're seeing their purchase. But investors can come in and recondition a home, put it back on the market. And because of that, lots of employment happens. You know, people want to buy that house and they got to fill the house up. So they've had a very unique place in the overall market as far as helping generate more income, more business, cash flow in cities. And so now we're going to turn around and go ahead and regulate by the number of homes they can buy. And so what I'm curious is, like, who's going to feel the full impact of that? Is it going to be the regular mom and pop investors, you know, buying a few homes here and there, or is it going to be the big boys? And how are the big boys going to overcome that? Are they just going to go through the mom and pop investors, right? And you know, there's going to be, they're trying to plug leaks right now, and I don't think that they're going to be able to anticipate where the new ones are going to come. So I think the question is, what are the unintended consequences from this? Because I just don't think that that's the root of the problem. I think it's part of the problem.
Okay, so what is a real estate investment trust, Nick? And break it down on how individuals now that are accessing the stock market, they go in, they can actually put some of their money into a real estate investment trust. So maybe $1,000, maybe a couple, maybe $100,000, things like that. So there's actual organizations that are out there that are collecting money. They're selling these stock options for these different real estate investment trusts. And then those conglomerates are going in to purchase those assets, and on the appreciation, so does the rest of the individuals. Their money grows. So break down real estate investment trusts, and what are your take on the local towns and cities trying to limit these things?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just kind of broke it down, right? So instead of investing in the stock market and having an asset manager who, you know, you're kind of hands off, they invest for you, you get the upside of it. Essentially, you're pooling your money to someone who's investing in a pool of properties, right? So these big time investors that go out and are buying, you know, like the BlackRocks of the world, you know, might have some portfolios with 3, 5, 10,000 houses that you can get a little piece of the action on. So it's interesting from a, you know, I only have $1,000 in my pocket. I want to invest in something, and I'm scared of the stock market, but I believe in real estate. It gives you a little bit of that action. The thing about that clip that's interesting to me, like the guy that they interviewed, where he was talking about the taxes and I can't afford to stay and I can't afford to leave. You know, that's really interesting right now. And I like or Tim said, they're trying to plug holes, and there's no real solution. But if you're stuck in that situation, which I kind of am in this Tampa market, it's the same way, right? If I sold, I'd have to move probably 100 miles away from my current location in order to find a comparable house for, you know, the same amount of money. So, yeah, it's an interesting time, but I think the real estate trusts, there's more investors buying, say, 10, 20, 30, 50 properties at a time than 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 gigantic. You know, so that I think the smaller investor right now is probably going to get hit harder than the big companies that can influence a little bit more, right? So it's your guy like me or Tim who's in the real estate industry that's just getting our feet wet, that, you know, might have a single family residence or two but wants to buy a portfolio, say 10 properties. We're probably going to get hit harder than you know, BlackRock or Vanguard or any of these big companies buying thousands of properties.
Tim, what's your take on obviously towns and cities and HOAs that are coming in? Obviously, we see that there's an issue. A couple weeks ago, we even ran a report on Cincinnati. Cincinnati Port Housing Authority actually went to outbid and purchased 20 homes or so in their area. I think it was 20. Wasn't it 20 or 80 homes? Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But they're trying to hedge because they realize it's such an issue with the way that the housing market's going. What's your take on this? Obviously, it's an issue.
Well, so I applaud the acknowledgement that there is a problem. I also applaud the attempt to figure out what to do about it. What I think is really interesting is we're in a reactionary phase right now. There was nobody could have anticipated that all, you know, just the way that, you know, Texas, because each state is different in how they do taxation of real estate, if they do it at all. But just Texas alone, I mean, if you think about what citizens in Texas pay for their homeowner taxes, they never could have anticipated, like that gentleman buying his house for $77,000 in the 90s, and now it's, you know, supposedly worth almost $400,000. And how is, you know, once upon a time he could have afforded that, even if they had, you know, said the house was worth 200,000. But when it starts getting inflated to the point where you're paying on a house that's 4 times, 5 times what you bought it for, how do you pay the taxes? And so it just seems to me that there's been a oversight of the long-term implications of the current systems that we have in place. And yeah, they probably need a bit of an overhaul. I just wonder if we can actually do that anytime soon. I know that Texas has got a bill that we can vote on right now in order to lock in or lower a little bit, get a little bit of relief, but it's only a little bit. We're talking about maybe $150 a month, depending on, you know, the value of the home.
You know, in some of these higher taxation states already, which are typically blue states, I know there has been some overhaul as far as like the amount of property tax that they consider SALT, right? SALT is the acronym, that they can go ahead and write off against their federal taxes. And now it's starting to push people out of some of those higher areas as well. Nick, you made an interesting comment, and I think it rolls really well into our next segment. If you did end up having a situation because of taxes and a lot of high appreciation inside of your home to where it becomes uneconomical for you to live there, maybe because of your income level capability, if you sold, you would have to move 100 miles away. So the next segment that we're getting into is the emerging market report that came out from the Wall Street Journal and Realtor.com, which kind of shows a little bit of where people are going and why people are going there. And I was really interested to go ahead and see the top 10 emerging markets in 2020. And I think it's just because of this right now. Rapid City, South Dakota went ahead and took number 1 on the list. Raleigh, North Carolina rounded in at the number 10. It's quite interesting to see the migration of people, but I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon.
Yeah.
So thank you, Tim. I appreciate it. Hey, Nick, do you remember that house that we showed where all of the people were virally trying to go ahead and get in? It was an open house, and it looked like a block party,
like an ant
right?
farm.
Yeah. It was, and there was that nice old lady across the street that said, "What's going on here? And maybe I should be selling my home."
Yeah.
That home sold for $70,000 over the top of the asking price. So here's a little takeaway report on it.
The Raleigh house that caused a big uproar. Remember this? Look at that line back there. Yeah, a few weeks back this happened. The price officially sold for well more than asking.
You'll remember the video with dozens of people showing up to an open house. The property was initially listed at $260,000. Well, in an update on Zillow today, it shows the final sale price was $330,000. Right now on Zillow, there are only 5 houses with Raleigh addresses listed for less than $300,000, and those will not last long.
All right, we're joined today with Mr. Paul Anastopoulos, licensed real estate agent, realtor out of beautiful North Carolina. Hey, Paul, your town in Raleigh went ahead and hit the top 10, and that home was right in your neck of the woods, right? So
that's exactly. Sorry, Jake. Thanks for having me on. That's exactly right. North Carolina is exploding. Raleigh right now is growing 3.4% a year. It was right under 500,000 in 2020 for population. I believe it's at 600 now. And the surrounding areas are getting pushed. So we have, and you can look on the map, you guys are listening today, Farkway Varina, Holly Springs, Apex, Cary. Those are the new greater parts of Raleigh that's growing. And the prices are growing as well. My cumbado lives in Holly Springs, and there's like 44,000 people that live there, and nothing's under $300,000 there.
So is there like an inversion that's happening, right? A lot of people from out of state are now coming to Raleigh, North Carolina, because they hear that it's awesome and it's cool and the prices are affordable in their mind in comparison to where they once lived. But then is it pushing out some of the local folks?
Yeah, I believe it is. And see, people in North Carolina tend to move in North Carolina. and the locals are just going to more rural areas, and then out of town people are coming in. We saw that house sold for $70,000 over asking price. In Raleigh, it is very common to see due diligence fees, and the due diligence fee for those listening, it is the money that goes to the seller, not the closing attorney. It's not escrow. It's not earnest money. It goes to the seller for a period of time. $50,000 for due diligence. If you walk away, you lose that money. It goes to the seller. This is very common in Raleigh, North Carolina right now. Jake, it's a mid-sized city. We have Research Triangle Park. We've got universities. We have NC State. There's Duke. Chapel Hill's not far from there. It's 2 hours from the beach. You get all four seasons. So it's a fantastic place to live. Job opportunity is good. Apple's coming. Amazon's coming. Fujifilm is coming. So we have a lot of people coming into Raleigh. It is our capital of North Carolina.
Yep.
So, and it's not as clustered as Charlotte. So it's a mid-city. People really like it. We get a lot of people from out of state, obviously, coming in. If they're not going to Florida, Nick, they're coming to North Carolina.
Yeah, for sure.
Nick, this report here, right? It really kind of indexes where people are going and highlights different housing markets, which display solid employment fundamentals, attractive amenities, lifestyle options, things like that. Here's some on the list, Nick. Rapid City, South Dakota, of all places, hits #1, and I'm sure it's because it's economical to go ahead and live there. And
Sure.
I think for one of the first times we've seen Montana go ahead and hit the list. Here's Billings, Montana at #9, and I think it's because people are saying the same thing. I'm going to sell in Reno. I'm going to go ahead and sell in California, and you know what? I heard Montana's beautiful. I'm just going to go there and take a deep breath and let the wave go over us.
Yeah.
What are your take on these things?
I'm in that group, man. There's not one day that passes recently in the past year that I haven't thought about selling, cashing out the equity, and building a big ass barn dominium somewhere on 20 acres, right? Like, I mean, I think the self-sustaining house, barn dominium / you have an internet connection. Really, the only thing that's keeping people in now is probably, I'd say, friends and family. You say only, but at the end of the day, that's a big deal. So school district, not even as much, because there's online schooling that's really good right now too. So 100 miles is not quite as bad as it used to be. But it's definitely on everybody's mind right now that's sitting on a big cash position like I am,
Yeah. Paul, what's the inventory levels look like in your beautiful Golden Triangle? You guys still struggling?
Yes, we are. Well, today it's a little bit better. We're at 1,200 houses on the market. We were really tough to get to 1,000, and I looked at it this morning, so we're at 1,200.
I think that's a really good short indicator, because here a couple weeks ago, you were on kind of giving us a different report, and we came right through a situation where the Fed increased the interest rates. Then I think it finally caught up in everybody's mindset going, ooh, if we're going to sell now, maybe we should sell. I think some of the homeowners are thinking there might be a stabilization a little bit, maybe less appreciation. Maybe they've come to the top of the market in some of their territories. And those little indicators right there on jump ups from 700 homes to 1,200 could be a part of it. And I know that's one of the contributing factors. What say you?
I agree. I hope so. The only thing that I'm concerned about is the local native of North Carolina. Because when you get interest rates at 8% and you got people coming in, the demand will still be strong. It'll be harder for the local to get a home, is what I'm foreseeing. And the reason I say that is because they may sell for a higher price in New York and New Jersey, and they can pay this $70,000 over asking price. Food's going up, gas is going up. People's salaries have to go up for the locals to be able to compete.
Yeah.
Well, what was your average price a year ago?
Here in Kernersville was 100, and forgive me, 6 months ago it went up $50,000.
Right.
So right now it's 230,000 in Kernersville. So it was like 170, 180 6 months ago.
So you're in the realm of where people are used to paying $200,000 for a nice house.
Yes.
Now you're $300,000 to get your feet wet with a bidding war.
Yes, and in Raleigh, it's about 100,000 more than what we are here in Kernersville.
Tony, I see Santa Cruz, Watsonville, California on the list here as an emerging market. And in your big state of California, and that's number 2 on the list, in your big state of California, I think people might be possibly moving from some of the more populated territories, selling for these higher prices, and then kind of getting to some of these pockets because they still love the state, but they're getting ready to make a shift. What say you?
Wow. There's probably too many variables to really nail it down, but based on my experience and people I've been talking to and the dealings I've been doing, the people who bought in certain areas of LA and Orange County, say 8, 10, 12, 15 years ago, they're making bank selling at incredible prices, and they're taking that money, and in some cases they're getting outside of the crushed busiest areas and maybe going out to less populated areas, especially if you're a tech person that had a great job the last 10 years with Google. You suddenly don't need to live in Newport Beach and paying a ton of money on taxes when you can go to one of the other areas on the list, California or anywhere, and go to some place with a bigger house, probably less taxes compared to what we're used to paying here. So the people who are making those moves are probably doing it because they're getting a lot more for their money. Because if you're over here making, say, $200,000, but I can go to one of those on the list of California, and now it's almost like making $380,000, but a bigger home and a bigger piece of land, I would probably do that. So it's a strategic move. It's probably based on how much money they're making. And in some cases, people just don't want to be in a very busy area because, Los Angeles alone it's pretty convoluted in some parts. It can get really dicey with the traffic, which we're known for, as well as great weather all year long. But now as other people start to move away and we hear and see on the internet and talk to our friends and family, all the good news and all the pleasures they get being just outside from where they used to live, or even changing the state, that starts to make other potential sellers think, maybe I could do that too. So we're starting to see an incremental feed of more people taking action based on what they're hearing of others doing the same by moving out and farther away.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't come to runation.com yet and entered your information to go ahead and get some of our post-show notes, we've got all of this stuff consolidated for you so that you guys can go ahead and get the links to the reports and all of these different things that we go ahead and break down. Gentlemen, let's move into our final segment here. I was unaware, but I was shocked to find out, right? So out of all things going up in our life, so does closing costs. According to a few reports, I'm seeing that it rose on average 13.4% in 2021. So this report released last week by CoreLogic's Closing Corp found that closing costs rose at 13.4 in 2021. The increase has pushed the average extra fees for a single family home to nearly $7,000 more. Tim, do you think that this is going to go up or down in 2022?
As long as the home prices continue going up, some of the closing costs are based on home sell price, right? And so you look at title policy in Texas, that is directly correlated with the sell price of the home. So if that price goes up, so does the title policy. As far as who's paying that, that depends on the competitive market. But right now in Texas, you got a lot of the buyers absorbing the closing costs as much as can be. And so they are taking on that title policy. So yeah, they've got to factor that in as well.
Nick, what are your thoughts on this? I'm sure that the closing costs in Tampa, because of that being like the number one town in the world right now, and real estate's going through the roof.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like Tim said, it has to, right? Based on everything else. What was the figure in that article? 30%?
13.4% increase in 21.
Right. So if we're 30% increase on actual pricing, so we're half of that in closing costs. That seems to be about right. I wouldn't say that's a far stretch.
Yeah. So it says the bulk of these costs are the taxes involved with finalizing the sale of a new home, but even excluding taxes, closing costs are well up to that other additional point, right? So, man, it's quite interesting. So what does that do for a borrower when they're sitting down trying to go ahead and achieve some type of financing? Does this get factored in, Paul?
It does. And whenever I meet a new buyer, I sit down and I'll explain to them what it's going to cost them to buy the house. And then I also call the closing attorney. If they don't already have a closing attorney, and I use one of mine, I will also call to just get a gist roughly so they can be aware how much money they need.
Tony, we talk about this debt to income ratios and borrowers' purchasing ability and constant inflation. I'm sure it's the same down where you're at as well. This gets factored in down in California too, does it not?
Yeah, it does. Boy, let me tell you, money gets thrown around here like wet mud in a farmer's fight. So, I like to believe that, based on this news that's coming out, one of the first things I'm probably going to experience is knee-jerk reaction of, oh, geez, I got to pay more money. But this could potentially be used as a strategy. A buyer, for example, if they're able to do so, be able in their offer to cover seller closing costs instead of just dumping more money on the price of the house. Because sometimes sellers, and I actually know a couple, they're just really sensitive on the maybe what I would call the wrong things, their cost, when they should be getting as much money for the house as possible. But some people just don't like the sting or the sound of the fees. So if somebody were to offer that, that could be a potential strategy. So we can temporarily spin it to our advantage in a negotiation, maybe. And also, like with the gas prices, I hate to say this, I always want to give good news, but someone's got to say it. Just like the gas prices go up, we're going to get used to it. What are you going to do? Call Chevron and say, hey, lower it? So the prices, unfortunately, all those fees, unless something changes drastically, we're going to get comfortable. Because remember, the fees we're paying now in the last year or two is a lot more than 20 years ago, and people got used to it. So I hate to be the bearer of, not that fun of news, but I suspect it's something that's going to be the new normal because, the expenses go up in those businesses as well. Title, escrow, they got to get paid, unfortunately, right?
Tim, the Fed obviously has taken off in their fix-it airplane, right? And they're up in the air, and we don't know how rough the landing is going to be.
Crop dusting. They're crop dusting.
Yeah. Okay, so obviously there's an attempt there. We've got local cities, towns trying to go ahead and do their part, taking a look at different things. As it pertains to closing costs here, closing costs are more expensive for home buyers in certain locations such as New York, Delaware, Maryland. Average closing fees are above $14,000. Washington, D.C. is by far the most expensive market, according to this report, for closing costs at an average of nearly $30,000. Go ahead and close on a piece of property. It's quite interesting. It's quite interesting. So
it's not going to change until blockchain changes it, probably.
Yeah.
Tim, what are some things that people should be thinking about financially, things that they can go ahead and adjust to offset a little bit and kind of get educated so that there's some more wealth nuggets in their mind?
Absolutely. I mean, look, this is one of those topics that we educate on. That is a very specific and personal question to answer for the family. A lot of times we can sit down with people. We can actually figure out where they've got some squeeze in their budget they could reallocate and frankly, I mean, we've sat here, I mean, even Nick is sitting here saying, I'm sitting on a large amount of equity. What can I do with it? I'll tell you right now, my wife and I even thought about selling our house and going to a mobile home, RV type living for a period of time. We homeschool our kids anyway, so no sweat off our back. But, that's a complete and total lifestyle shift. The question is, how extreme are you willing to get for extreme circumstances, right? And so I would argue that with even that being said, a heck of an investment right now would be getting into RV parks. Just saying. So, but yeah, as far as like, what would you do with the equity? How would you protect it from taxation and loss? And, make sure it's in what I like to say, contractual agreement to make sure whatever dollar you put in, you get back out. All those things matter, especially as we head forward into very uncertain territory. So we help with all that. You can reach us at Patriot Wealth Nation at protonmail.com.
Patriot Wealth Nation at protonmail.com. Thank you, Mr. Tim. Hey, Tony, if somebody's coming to Southern California to pick up their Metaverse home, how can they go ahead and get in touch with you?
Very easily. They can either go to Tony Barbarino, TonyBabarino.com, or they can always call or text 949-633-6741. We can talk virtually or grab coffee in person, which is really nice, and even start with just a conversation and see what they need.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Tony. Paul, your town hit the top 10 list, my friend. Looks like a lot of people are going to want to come to North Carolina, which is great. I love North Carolina. It sounds like there's a lot of good business that's coming in there. It sounds like it's got a stable job marketplace, some opportunity for folks, and what a beautiful and wonderful state that is in our nation. How can people get in touch with you if they need help or representation coming over to North Carolina?
Absolutely, Jake. So you can reach out to me directly, 336 area code 963-3684, or email me at paul7@kw.com. And that's the number because my last name's 15 letters. So you just put PAUL, the number 7, because that's my favorite number, at kw.com.
Outstanding, Paul. Thanks for joining us today on the Real Estate America's Newsroom. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Paul.
Paul, tell everybody in North Carolina we said hello and we wish them the best. Nick, there was a lot of stuff in the news today, again and again, right? It just keeps coming at us. A lot of changes, shifts, and pivots, and things to think about. So I would venture to say that your opinion is the same as mine. Is reach out, touch base with somebody who's a really good ambassador. If you're looking to sell or purchase a home, if you're making a transition, and keep all of these different things in your mind before you make a decision, right?
Yep, 100%.
So looks like emerging markets. There's some of those emerging markets that were on there that were quite interesting. I actually had to look them up because I haven't really heard them before, and it seems to me like people are kind of rolling and moving into these new territories. So
yeah, Jake, you got to get your Metaverse house too, buddy.
I do.
Yep.
All right, everybody that's listening, put in the comments down below what should Sergeant Wolf's Metaverse house take a look like.
What would it look like? I think it would look like a castle. There'd definitely be a moat around it, maybe a drawbridge.
So does it keep all the rest of the Metaverse people out that they can't get in?
I think that would.
All right, we're gonna have to start sketching this up.
Yeah.
Building my virtual castle with a moat around the outside of it. So
that's it.
Invite only, VIP at Sergeant Wolf's castle.
That's right.
Interesting enough. All right, Nick, how can people get in touch with you if they seem to want to do so?
Yeah, if they want to do so. So drop me a line at reunation.com. I'd love to chat and have some people on the show, ask them about what's going on in their market, right? We're covering North Carolina. We're covering California, Texas, Tampa Bay. If you're listening to the show, we'd love to have you on in a different market. Like, let us know, right? Also, I'll be like Mr. Tony. If you would like to get in touch with me about anything marketing, go to nicksakis.com. That's NICKSAKKIS.com.
Outstanding. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, once again, if you need to get in touch with any of the hosts of the show, you can go over there and hit the bio pages on reunation.com. Once again, we urge everybody to go ahead and enter their name, phone, and email address. We will send out all of the show notes. We don't do weird late night text messages, so don't worry about that. We might just go ahead and say hello every once in a while and let you know what's going on in the world. And if you have some hot insider news or have any suggestions for the show, please leave us a message. Go over to reunation.com, hit the Real Estate America's newsroom page, and you will know the rest. So fantastic. Mr. Nick Sakis, thank you once again for joining us here and co-hosting the news program.
Yes,
and I appreciate it immensely. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't do this without you. We appreciate you. We work hard behind the scenes producing the show and trading parts of our non-infinite life to go ahead and bring you all of this stuff and our opinions and things to be cautious about and blessed about, things like that. So if you could, please subscribe to our YouTube channels that you're watching this on. Go ahead and smash the like button, hit the bell to go ahead and make sure you're in the know on what's going on. I think I said that right. I heard a lot of other YouTubers that say this kind of a thing, but we are broadcasting on YouTube. So do the like thing, the subscribe thing, the bell thing. Let us know how we're doing over here. And if you have a reason to get in touch with us, we invite you to do so. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, have a blessed rest of your day. Cheers and charge hard, everybody.